Cajun in the city. I'm Cajun Ken, where I truly bring the bayou to the Big Apple. Throw your pole in the water and run home, because it's time to eat. Today's recipe, we're cooking Louisiana governor steak with creamed asparagus and Cajun buttered potatoes. This recipe has been lost since around the mid-1960s and was served to 8 former governors in the governor's mansion, of course. Now, we found the recipe and we're cooking it for you here for the first time, and we're gonna do it just like they did in the mansion by using this old flat iron here. Now, keep in mind, I understand not everyone has a flat iron laying around their house. We got a few substitutes for you here today, so let's get to cooking. For this recipe, we're going to be using nice, delicious red potatoes, big fat asparagus, butter, fresh pepper, a little bit of flour, plain old flour, nothing special, fresh peppercorns, a little bit of Cajun delicious spice. All Cajun recipes have to have a little bit of this stuff. Lemon zest and juice. Whole grain Dijon mustard. I love that stuff. Pesto paste, heavy cream, chicken stock, a little bit of snip, fresh parsley, and don't forget our delicious porterhouse steak. And we're gonna sear in all those Cajun good flavors with this old-timey iron. So let's go ahead and get started on cutting up our asparagus. I have some very nice looking asparagus here. Let's go ahead and cut the ends of them off. Always make sure you cut these ends off just like this when you get them from the grocery store. I usually like to take off 1/4 inch because that's where the asparagus is mostly tender at, and actually where it starts. So you want to make sure you wash these things really good before you put them into the pot. Just like that. Toss these into the sink there. We're going to wash these up real quick. And we're going to put these into the pot. We're going to turn these into good old southern asparagus. I washed the asparagus. I'm going to put these into the pot here. Next up is the Cajun boiled potatoes. I picked out some white potatoes and some red potatoes. I like the colors. I think the yellow potatoes have just a little bit more of a sweeter flavor and taste. And you get you a nice little shaver here, and you cut some little lines in them just like this here. Don't worry about making a mess. We're going to wash these off before we stick them in the pot anyway. And I'm just using just a regular little shaver here. There's no right way or wrong way to do this. And the reason I'm doing this right here is because after I boil them, I'm going to sprinkle some wonderful seasoning on them, salt and pepper, and this is going to actually get down into the actual meat of the potato. And it looks nice too. I remember when I was a kid, I grew up on a farm, and I always had to go outside during the summertime and help my folks pull potatoes out of the ground. That wasn't anything that I wanted to do. So now that I'm a little older, I respect potatoes. I'm still glad I'm not out there having to pull them out of the dirt. These are Cajun potatoes here. So these are going to be good. Spiced up, jazzed up. I put a little crab boil in the water so that way it gets that nice southern seafood crab flavor into the potatoes, and it goes just deliciously with the steak. These go right into the pot. Your water don't have to be boiling because it actually cooks anyway. So we have our asparagus in the water, we have the potatoes in the water. We're going to let these boil. So let's get to cooking and making up our creamy, zesty Cajun sauce. We're going to start out with about 4 tablespoons of butter right into the hot pan here. Smoking up a storm there. I'm going to add just a little bit of garlic. Some people like to crush their garlic. Some people like to chop it up. I actually do both. I chop up a little bit. Try not to cut your fingers off when you do this here. and then just smash it. Put that right in there, like that. Garlic and butter. Man, you're talking about good. It's a very easy recipe to follow. Creamed asparagus is a delicacy down south. We do that a lot. Chop up this garlic here. No special way, because you're going to cook it all up when you're doing that in the first place. Let that butter there basically saute the garlic. And that's what you want. You want to brown that just a little bit before you put all the ingredients like the chicken stock and the heavy cream that's coming in. Because basically once you put that in there, it's already done. So next up, pinch of pepper. I always like to add just a little bit of saffron. That's right, saffron. About 7 or 8 sprigs of real saffron. It really changes the flavor of things. A few twigs of dried thyme. I'm just going to pull these, shave these off like this. These were hanging up in my kitchen for a while, so I'm just going to shave these off here. If you get some of the twigs in there, it's not a big deal. Make sure you constantly stir this. You don't want to burn it. You got your butter going on in there. Your butter is really going to help change the flavor of it. Next up, a little bit of fresh pesto paste. About a tablespoon is all you need. Wow, listen to that sizzle. Man, yeah. Smells like Grandma's house already. Let's go ahead, add a little bit of lemon juice and zest. I actually cut up a few pieces of the lemon peel and put in there. I want to cut this heat down just a little bit. It's burning just a little bit, cooking just a little bit too fast there for me. Next up, I'm going to add a little bit of Dijon mustard. About 2 tablespoons should do it. It's a little bit more in this cup than I normally use, but you can always add more later after you taste it. A good cook always taste test what they're cooking. Don't be cooking stuff blindly because you don't know what it tastes like. Taste as you go. That's what I recommend. That's browning up very nicely there. Next runner up, we're going to get some peppercorns here. Nothing jazzes up a nice southern dish than fresh peppercorns. And now, since we're actually cooking the governor's steak with this meal, we're going to use our trusty old flat iron. Put a few right here on the table. Move this out of the way because we're going to make a big explosion, folks. Oh, look at that. Now that's fresh pepper. I'm going to sprinkle just a little bit in here. Next up, for our creamy zesty sauce here, we're going to pour in our chicken stock. About 1.5 cups of chicken stock here. I'm not going to use all of this. Pour that in there. Let's turn this heat back up. Heavy cream. Just a little, well, might as well, huh? I'm going to stir this like this. I'm making this in a skillet. You can make this in a pot. You can make this with a different type of cooking apparatus. I just love cast iron skillets. Every southern home has multiple cast iron skillets. About 1.5 teaspoons or 2 teaspoons of regular flour. You can shift this right through the top there and just make sure that you use most of what you have in your bowl there. I'm going to work on this here. We're going to cream this up. I got flour all over my hands here, which is good. I'm going to bring this to a boil. Once it starts coming to a boil, you're going to see it thicken up there. While this is coming to a boil, I'm going to cut this off and let this simmer. I'm going to check on my potatoes and my asparagus back here behind me. And we'll come back and we'll have us one zesty cream of asparagus going on here. While our zesty cream of asparagus sauce is cooking down, it smells great, it looks great, but you know what? Needs just a little bit of lemon zest. If you don't have one of these handy contraptions at home, you don't need it. I like to add just a little bit of fresh lemon to it. That's about good enough right there. You should never cook with the wine that you wouldn't drink. So always Make sure you do that little rule there. Put a little bit of wine in here. We're going to stir this back up. Luckily, I got enough wine left in the bottle. You know, sipping and cooking it, you know, things happen. Look at that. One final ingredient to always make the zesty asparagus sauce is I always like to chop up just a little bit of red pepper. It can be dried peppers, it can be fresh peppers. I prefer a little bit of red. You can get the crushed red peppers at any local market and just crumble that up just like that. Not that much. A little bit of color, a little bit of zest. I'll reach over here and grab some of my parsley. I pre-soaked this parsley in water earlier today because I wanted to have it just a little bit crispy. Bend it up like that. I'm not going to put a lot into it, but you know what? You can chop this up parsley just like this here. Put a little bit in that bowl there. Use it for later. Sprinkle just a little bit of parsley on that. Now this ain't your normal asparagus cream sauce, I guarantee. So by all means, try this at home. But you know what? Whoever you're cooking it for is going to love you. Now we're going to shake this up a little bit. And what I mean by shaking it up a little bit, literally, get our good old trusty towel here. Now down south, we use what we call mason jars. Mason jars are these nice little jars like this right here. My folks' shed has hundreds of these. And the funny thing is that everyone down south thinks that they should put everything in mason jars, from meats to vegetables to stocks to soups, and they make this stuff by the hundreds. I don't know what they're waiting on, but you know, I don't think anyone can ever eat that much food. We're going to pour up this delicious cream sauce right in this mason jar here, and like I said, when we shake it up, we mean it. I'm going to get this right here, just like this here, where you all can see this here. We're going to pour this up like that. There we go, just like that there. Be careful if you're using a skillet. Do not touch the top of your mason jar because you'll break it. And then all your wonderful recipe will go out all over the place there. So now that we got this in here like this, we're going to shake it up. Just like this right here. You don't have to get too crazy. You can do it a little behind your head there. Like that. Just don't drop it. But you know, I'm going to shake this up like this. And then we're going to set this aside. And we're going to let the flavors marry while we cook up that Louisiana governor steak. So get ready, folks. This thing heats up and gets all hot too. So by the time it starts burning your hand, set it down. Next up, Louisiana governor steak. We're almost ready for the governor steak, but first, let's go ahead and let's cut our bread and get it popped into the oven. I got a nice bowl here. I just want to take my bread knife and just cut right down the middle. Just like this here. Man, fresh bread goes together with steak so well. I grew up with fresh bread. And if you don't know how to cook fresh bread at home, hey, I recommend you get on there and start doing it. What I'm going to do now, I got the round side. I'm going to push this down like this. Flatten it down a little bit. It doesn't matter. It's a great piece of bread, period. Flip this over here. Take a big old thing of butter. Just like this here. Man, I love me some butter. Slather it up like that. Get that butter in there real good. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of seasoning to the bread here before I pop it in the oven. And that bread is going to toast beautifully while we're cooking up that governor steak. This one here has a little indentation in the middle. So guess what I'm going to do with that? Fill it up with more butter. Can't go wrong, right? If you don't like butter, then don't use it. Don't put it in there. But if you like butter, just follow my lead. So we're going to butter it up. Beautiful. Take a little bit of salt. Just a little bit. As the French would say, a little bit of pepper, but I'm not French. Cajun is French-Canadian. And since I got a little crab boil over here, doesn't hurt. Put a little fresh parsley right on top. That's going to cook in there really good. That's beautiful. Excellent. We're going to pop this in the oven, and while that's cooking, we're going to cook up that governor steak, what you've been waiting for the whole time. Now it's time for Louisiana governor steak. It's a very simple process, but the flavors and how we sear this, you just can't miss it. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out with a few simple ingredients. A little bit of kosher salt, sprinkled just right on top, just like this here. What I like to do, push it in with my fingers, get that salt right in there like that. Not too much, just a pinch. You want to give it just a beautiful little flavor there. Luckily I cracked open these peppercorns earlier. We'll sprinkle just a little bit of fresh pepper. Look how simple this is. Salt, pepper. Now also, I'm going to add a little bit of fresh rosemary. What I like to do is just pull a few sprigs off, crumble it up like that. Like I said, if you don't have the fresh stuff like this or the dried fresh, it's okay. Use it out of a jar. It's no big deal. Fresh is always better, but if you don't have it, don't let that stop you from cooking a great meal. Our steak is all seasoned up with that Louisiana goodness. We're going to plop that baby right back down there. We're going to season up the pan. That's right. A steak needs to have a seasoned pan. So what we're going to do, it's already nice and hot. We're going to take a little bit of butter. About 3 tablespoons of butter there. There we go. And we're going to take some fat. Actually, we trimmed from the steak. Grab your tongs, and you want to season that pan like this here. Just like this. Oh wow, listen to that sizzle. Now this is the fat from the actual steak. I'm coating the pan with it. So the next thing we're going to do, after this is smoking really good here, we're going to take this steak here and we're going to put it right down into the pan. But first, we're going to tell you that what we do with the Louisiana steak is that we're going to use this old flat iron here. We're going to sear that baby. And like I promised you before, don't fret, people, because if you don't have one of these at home, what you can use is an old-fashioned brick. And the people say, I don't want to put a brick on my food. Well, guess what? That's why they make tinfoil. What we're going to do is we're going to wrap this up in tinfoil, just like this. And guess what? You have a nice steak weight, just like this here. Boom, there you go. Put that right on the steak. So let's get to cooking. Just like that, you turn around, we're going to put this iron right on the top. I'm going to bring this heat all the way up. There we go. We're going to sear that baby. Now what you're doing is you're searing one side of the steak. You're searing in all the flavor, all the juices, everything. And that's going to make that steak nice, tender, and juicy. Most people don't know this little trick, but like I said, this here is a lost recipe. Louisiana governor steak, people. Hasn't been eaten in almost 50 years. This recipe will be available, so by all means, get out there and try it yourself. While that's searing right there, let's go ahead and let's check it out. Oh, look at that. Sear that baby again just like that. While it's searing on that side, let's go ahead and check on our bread from the oven and get that prepared. Oh, look at that. Just how we like it. We always want to put a little bit of fresh garlic. Garlic cloves here. All you need is 2 or 3. Fresh garlic on the top. That's all you need. That's what I'm talking about there. Let's check on our steak there. It doesn't take long. to sear this bad boy with all of these juices and flavors. Just a little bit more there. While that's cooking, move that out of the way. Let's go ahead and bring the asparagus over to the table. We got our boiled potatoes here ready to go. Oh yeah, these are nice. Nice big pieces of asparagus. Okay. Go ahead and take this off here. I believe our steak is done. I don't like mine too overcooked, but this is a big piece of meat here. There you go. We're just going to plump that right there on the table there. So we're done cooking our Louisiana Governor steak. Let's go ahead and add these potatoes to it. Now keep in mind, we've been cooking these potatoes all day just for you. Man, those look good. I tasted these earlier and they are delicious. One thing about Cajun potatoes is that you taste the bayou. You taste the South. You taste Cajun. That's good. Let's go ahead and get our asparagus out of here. Man, I love fresh asparagus. I hope you do too. I tell you what, if you could smell this right now, I know you'd be climbing through the TV screen right now, wanting some of this stuff. This is delicious. What a beautiful, succulent piece of steak. Nice porterhouse there. Let's go ahead and cut our bread. Right there. Now this bread was very easy to make. All it is a little bit of garlic, add a little bit of garlic to it, a little bit of seasoned salt, a little bit of parsley. Man, what are you talking about? Now that's some good stuff if I say so myself. Let's go ahead. Remember we doing all the shake and shake? Well, that's when it comes in again. We're going to shake up this sauce one more time. And we're going to pour it right over this. Oh, just like that there. Man, that's good. That's great. That's Southern. Till next time on Cajun in the City. From the Bayou to the Big Apple. Keep cooking, America.
Cajun in the City is sponsored by the Eileen S. Kaminsky Family Foundation, BILLVOICES.com, Slap Your Mama Cajun Products, Qualified EB, and Pentloff Studios, LLC, with special thanks to the following.
From the bayou to the Big Apple. Keep cooking, America.